Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are finally going to be doing an updated favorite art supplies video. The last time I did this, I feel like I haven't tried as many new art supplies as I have done now that I'm doing this video. So I've only been using a few pencils, and my very favorite one is the black wing matte. This pencil feels so luxurious to use, and it's also it goes very dark, and it's very versatile in that it's very easy to get lighter tones with it, but then it does go dark. The only thing about this that makes this not too perfect for sketching on video is that it's not fully matte, and when the light catches it, it sort of loses that dark intensity. But I still use that a lot for my videos. I just try to manipulate the lighting so it doesn't affect it that much. But really, this is my favorite pencil to use and has been for a while. The next one is the Mars Lumograph Black. This one I'm gonna mention because it also goes as dark as the black wing matte. But the thing about this one is that it doesn't reflect the light, so it retains its darkness no matter what angle you're filming it from. So this is better, I think, for doing videos. If you want to sketch on videos, it isn't as versatile as the black wing in that it's harder to get lighter tones with this, but I would still recommend this because it goes very dark, because it is a carbon pencil, but it's as messy and more user-friendly if you're not used to charcoals. This one is also a really good pencil. The next one is a little bit of a dark horse. I didn't plan on adding this one, but that's because I haven't used all of the pencils, but the ones I've used are really good. These are the Artix drawing pencils. I believe they're meant for students, but they're really good. They're good for drawing. They go very dark. Again, they're reflective because they're graphite pencils, but they are still really good. It's a good set. They feel amazing, actually. And also they keep their point really well. The wood feels very solid on this. So yeah, I would recommend this. I just haven't really mentioned them in any of my videos because I don't know how I would review just pencils and how I would expand on that for a full video. But these are actually really good. I also really just love the colors on these. I think they're really fun. The next thing I want to talk about are what I use to sketch with when I'm planning on painting over those drawings. So the very first one, and sort of a comeback favorite, is my Prismacolor Very Thins. I have a whole set of these, and I like using the lighter colors more for my paintings, but recently I've been using the darker ones too. I've been using the violet and the greens just because they show up more in video. The great thing about these is that they feel very much like regular graphite pencils, so you can use the colors that are very close to your paintings. With regular colored pencils, some of them get very waxy and just repel the water, so not that great for painting over. These ones are great for that, but then they also lift very easily. I would use my kneadable eraser on this and just press on it before I lift them out. That makes it less messy when I'm taking out those extra lines. And yeah, these are just great for your line work before your paintings. After that, I have the thing that I use to sketch with the most, and that is my FLEXSTIck red ink ballpoint pen. I just love this one for how smooth it is on the paper. The thing is, there's really nothing special about this except that it does glide very smoothly on the paper. And also that it's red. I just love that color for sketches. I think it's so satisfying when I paint over them. Little warning about these ones. They bleed very easily. I'm sure you can find a better red pen than this one. I love this one because it's what I'm used to. But I feel it would be bad for me to leave them out of the video when I use them the most. And then for my black ink pen, lately I've been using the Pilot G-Tech pen, and I have this one on my last video, and I still love this one as much as then. It gives very smooth, dark, and matte lines, so these are great for layering over your lighter pens. I love pairing this one with my red ballpoint pen. The thing about this isn't waterproof. I just love using this one for after when I do ink my watercolor paintings, which I haven't done lately. If you do want a recommendation for a very good waterproof brush liner, I would highly recommend the Pentel Pocket Brush ink pen. I remember that just being so beautiful. It's also waterproof, so you can do your sketches first before layering them with your watercolors. And the great thing about that is, aside from that, is that the ink doesn't feel very scratchy, which I have found with a lot of waterproof pens. That one just runs very smoothly, and also the tip for that brush remains very fine. It keeps its point really well. I just love that pen. Overall, it's just a great brush pen in general, and I would always recommend that one. The next thing we have is my white ink, and I really still only have one favorite, and it is the Copic Opaque White ink. I love this one too because it comes with its own brush, and also is the most opaque white that I have. None of my other white pens are as opaque as this, and I also just love that it comes in a brush form and it's very clean in that way. The next thing we have are alcohol markers, and I have found myself just loving to sketch with these. I really haven't tried that many, but I have tried some Copic markers and the Ohuhu ones. So the one that I would recommend is the Ohuhu markers, just because it's less expensive, but also for me personally, it blends really well. I'm always so impressed by alcohol markers and how they easily melt into each other and how evenly they lay down. So I would just recommend the Ohuhu markers because you can get more for a smaller set. And they also have a brush nib if you prefer that. And I found that alcohol markers aren't really light fast, so I wouldn't personally think that it'd be worth it to buy the most expensive ones you can get if they're not going to be light fast anyway. I think it'd be more important to have as many colors as you can because you can't really make your own colors as easily as with other mediums with alcohol markers. So yeah, for me, just the Ohuhu markers, they are great. They also come in a lot of different set sizes, so you can try them out before you commit yourself to the bigger sets. I will also mention my highlighters because I do still use them for my sketches. And I just use my Stabilo Boss highlighters. I know they're old news now, but I love sketching with these. They're really nothing that much special about these, except that they layer on top of your inks better than I think than alcohol markers because they show up more. They don't lay down as smoothly as alcohol markers, but I still really love these. Gives me that really raw look that I want for my sketches. The next thing we have are our colored pencils, and this is not a surprise to anyone, but my favorite ones are my Holbein artist colored pencils. And once again, I will be mentioning the fact that I have this full set before and our whole house was flooded and these were underwater for a full day. And when we came back, I just let them dry and they were good to go. Some of them cracked, but to this day, I still use those pencils from my first set. I have been lucky enough to have been sent a new set, but these old ones still feel as durable as the last one. These are just my favorite art supplies overall. They're so great for surviving that, but they also just feel amazing. I don't think I have any other pencils that feel as premium as this. I think the closest one would be my Polychromos. I only have a few pencils from that set, but I like this one more because they're easier to blend. And I also just love the pastel set on these, which you can get separately from the bigger sets. And I highly recommend that because those pastel sets are just very special, I think. The next art supplies I'm going to talk about are the oil pastels and soft pastels. And for this category, Paul Rubens is the best out of all that I've tried. And for oil pastels, I recommend their Haya line of oil pastels for two reasons. One is that the color options for this are way better than the other ones I've tried. I think these are more versatile and also better for portraits because there's a lot more browns and greens in there, which come up a lot in skin colors. But the other reason is that they just feel amazing. These aren't as smooth and buttery as the Artex ones, and I think that's for good because Artex become very hard for me to layer just because of how soft they are. These are just perfect for blending and layering. There is one big thing about them, and that the set that I have, there's a couple of the oil pastels here that are very greasy to hold, and I've heard comments on my review video saying that that's not normal, so it's a big precaution. But I would still recommend that out of all my other sets of oil pastels. And also Emily Hughes says this reminds her of her Sennelier oil pastels, and that was just so validating to me. I think if Emily Hughes likes these oil pastels, that would be all I would need, really. And for the soft pastels, again, I would recommend my Paul Rubens ones. And the main thing about soft pastels is I haven't tried a lot from any other brands. I've tried some student line ones, which I don't think would be as comparable to these ones. But I just find this set in particular to be so special, and that would be because of the color range. And these are just great for portraits. There's a lot of muted colors in here, there's a lot of grays and browns, while also maintaining some very vibrant colors. I just love this set so much. This is probably my favorite color options in any of my bigger sets that I have. I think these are the best curated colors out of all of the sets that I have still. So the next things that I'm going to mention are papers and sketchbooks. So the very first one that I will talk about right now is my little art creation sketchbook. I love this one because it's so tiny, and it also feels very premium. I love the cover. It doesn't feel like it might fall apart like my other sketchbooks I've done before. It takes gouache extremely well if you don't use gouache very watery like I do, and it's also just great for sketching. The tooth on this is just enough texture while still maintaining that smooth quality to it, so that your pens glide on it and doesn't feel like it's resisting your pencils. So yeah, I really just love this little sketchbook, and I will be using this more from now on. And this is my gilded floral journal from Peter Popper Press. This one is just gorgeous. Reminds me of those old fairy tale books, and that's just really the reason why I like this one so much, because it inspires me to sketch on it very often. Nothing special about the paper whatsoever. It's just a simple lined paper, but I just like using this one simply for the cover. If I would recommend only one of these, I would just recommend the Art Creations one, because that one feels more created specially for sketching and painting sometimes with gouache. But I'm just gonna mention this journal because I use it a lot, and it's the one that I've been using most this year, and it'd be weird if I leave it out. While we're here, we're gonna talk about my favorite watercolor sketchbooks, and if I had to choose one, I would choose this stone book from SMLT Art. I love this one. I love the tooth on it. It's cold pressed, but it's not too textured where it just eats away at your pencil. It's just textured enough, and it's also, I believe, 100% cotton paper. It's great for watercolors. It's great for layering. I also love that it lays flat when you open it, and the paper is amazing. And also the cover feels gorgeous. I believe it's made out of stone. This is just a beautiful sketchbook overall, and I also love the size on it. If there was one perfect watercolor sketchbook, it would be that one. The next one I have is my Quiver Smith's watercolor sketchbook, and the thing about this is they mostly just customize and bind the sketchbook for you, because you can choose your own papers and the kind of cover that you want. So this one that I have, I just love. I made sure that this one is big, and also the paper that I used is Arch watercolor paper, so there was really no holding back when I customized that sketchbook, and that's why it's easy to choose as another favorite. The only thing about this is it doesn't lay flat, which isn't such a big deal for me because my sketchbook is so big that it still opens up very easily. But that is one thing to note if you're getting their smaller sketchbooks. At least ask about that. The next sketchbooks that I want to talk about are my gouache sketchbooks, and as similar as watercolor and gouaches, I actually don't use the same kind of paper interchangeably for them. The one that I use the most outside of my usual sketchbooks that I sketch on would be actually my Etcher Lab watercolor sketchbook. It's just thick enough, but the main thing for that is it's also very smooth, which I just love for gouache. And then the next one I actually haven't talked about it all in my channel is my Canson XL watercolor paper. Because this one isn't cotton, I love using it for gouache more, and even though it's still thick, the tooth on it is not very rough. It's just a great and also affordable option for gouache too. Okay, so the next categories are the big ones. And the first one is watercolors. I'm just gonna say it, my favorite for watercolors this year is actually my Daniel Smith watercolors. I have this little curated set where I just bought half pans of them, and so I have a very versatile little palette right here. These are probably my second most vibrant watercolors, and I'll just mention the next one later. But the thing about them is that they are more expressive on the paper. It's hard to explain, but they move a lot on the paper, and they just feel more like what watercolors should feel for me. So this has been my favorite watercolor this year. The second one that I will mention, and the second one that I would recommend, is actually the Sennelier watercolors, and especially their 5 colors set. They have a set of 5, I believe 15 milliliter tubes, and those colors are amazingly curated. It's just 3 primary colors, but also 2 convenience colors that I use a lot still. This is probably the only 5 color set that I feel really takes advantage of the 5 colors that they had to choose. And also, if you're just getting into watercolors, I would recommend this set in particular because of the color options, but also because Sennelier, I feel, is a lot easier to control than Daniel Smith. And if you're more into that smoother look for your portraits, which I sometimes like, especially for just when I'm drawing faces, I would get Sennelier over Daniel Smith. And so for my last watercolor favorite, this one I haven't used in so long, but I still think this is my most vibrant, most intense colors, and that is the Micello watercolors. If you're looking for very intense colors, these ones would be what I recommend the most. They also come in tubes, and they have a full set of all single pigment colors, which I just think is beautiful. I just wish that I didn't sell my tubes because I thought my little half pens was gonna last me for so long, but they didn't, and I actually molded out, and that's why I haven't used them in a while. But yeah, Micello watercolors, severely underrated, and again, one of my favorite watercolors still. The next one's probably my favorite medium is gouache, and again, not a surprise, my favorite is the Holbein gouache. I love the color options. I love how they mix. The colors just stay very true to themselves. They don't gray very easily. They're extremely opaque, and they don't crack when you use them very thickly. I just really love these colors. I feel like if you're looking for the best gouache paints that money can buy, Holbein is the one that you would want to look for. You can also get individual colors, so if you want to build your own like I did. But yeah, Holbein gouache is up there with my favorite art supplies all in all, and I would recommend them to anyone. And then the last one, I actually can't leave out. These are the Himimiya gouache. They come in these very big sets that I personally haven't tried them, but they look like they're very gorgeous colors. And the thing about the Mia gouache is they're student quality. They're not really meant to be archival colors, but they're so good. You still have all of the qualities that you love in gouache, where the colors are flat. They don't have this shiny quality to them, which I just dislike in gouache. If you're starting out and want to try out the medium and have a lot of paint, I would recommend the Mia gouache because they are so affordable. I believe at one point I found a set of the Mia gouache that was as expensive as 2 Holbein 13 milliliter tube. So that was an insane deal. And if you can find deals like that, go ahead and just get these. These are still a great gouache set overall. Okay, so the next category are the brushes, and I hope this isn't cheating, but my favorite ones really are the ones from my collab with Craftamo, and these are all great for watercolors and gouache, and I actually gave away most of my other watercolor brushes just because I've been using these exclusively. The thing about the Craftamo brushes is they're incredibly soft, but they retained their tip really well. And they're actually the best at doing that out of all the brushes I've tried. And that's why my favorite thing to paint with them is hair and some details with watercolors. I just really love these brushes, and that's why I haven't been using any other brushes since I've used this. But I also have one other one that I would still recommend because it's so different from the ones that I chose for my set. And this one is so inexpensive that it's kind of weird how much I like it. This one is just called the Aishake mop brush, and that's just what it says on the brush itself. It says Art Brush China, but I got this for less than $1, I think, and it's on one of those inexpensive shops that you can probably expect to find on websites like AliExpress and Wish. But I just love this one so much because it's so soft and it holds up a lot of water. Why I think it's so different from the brushes that I designed from Craftamo is because the strokes that I can get with them are so soft and not defined. When I want to get those blurred out looking brush strokes, I would use this, and it's so inexpensive. That's why I would recommend this still. I do still have a handful of brushes that I kept outside of these two, but I haven't really used them much this year, and after I got my Craftamo set, I haven't used them at all, so I would just be mentioning these two for now. So the last category of art supplies are my tools, and the very first one that I have, again, is still on my last video, and this is just my crank sharpener. The one that I have says Deli, so I'm assuming that's the brand, but really any crank sharpener, I just enjoy using them. I think it's so therapeutic to sharpen my pencils with them. I also really like how sharp it can get my pencils. This has just been working extremely well. The next one we have is my pencil extender, and I still actually use them a lot. I just haven't been showing them in my videos, but this just is a very simple tool. It helps you use your pencils more than you would be able to without it. Just extends your hold on it and gives you better control. But yeah, very simple but extremely useful. Next one I want to mention is my most beloved flower mixing palette. I actually don't know what compelled me to buy this, just because it's so expensive. And I know now, looking back, I wouldn't buy it because of how expensive it was. I believe I got this for 600 pesos, but I just really love this one. The wells on them are the perfect size for being able to hold enough colors on them, but also there's enough space to actually mix your colors on each well. I just really love this. I think it's a perfect size for keeping in frame of my videos too. But yeah, it's my favorite mixing palette. It's a little bit expensive, but I just really find joy in using this one all the time. The next one, I want to talk about my brush cleaner, and I suspect it's one of those things that I'm just so fascinated by it because I didn't know they can be this versatile. The main thing that I love about this is that it has a different level so that you can keep the water level just enough to clean out the hair in your brush. But also when you clean it out, there are holes in that level that lets your paint settle at the bottom and not on the level of water where you're actually cleaning your brushes on. So it keeps the water cleaner. There's also a little piece of metal that sticks out where you can dry your brush on. It's also airtight when you seal it, so when it's knocked over, it doesn't spill. I suspect there are things like this out there, but since this is the one that I have, it's the one that I'm raving about. Also one of those things that I'm excited to talk about in case you guys don't have one yet. The next one I want to talk about is my kneadable eraser, and the one that I'm using is from Lyra. I've been using this more than before, and kneaded erasers are just great for picking up pigment from your paper without needing to push them around on your paper and damaging the tooth on them, and also just spreading the pigment more. These pick up color incredibly well, and so that's why this is very important to me now, and especially this year since I've been using it the most. The final one I want to talk about is my Holbein masking fluid, and it's one of those things that I've appreciated more since I've been painting more for this year. My favorite thing about this is the applicator because it's so fine and it really gets you those exact details that you need for your paintings, especially for hair. This is great for that. The color also has this pink hue to it, so it's easier to spot when it dries because it becomes more of an opaque pink. In general, I just like masking fluids with this kind of applicator more because I've ruined a few brushes using the ones that come in a pot. But aside from that, I just love how this one performs. It's easy to lift off of the paper. It took me such a long time to finally figure out how to use masking fluids properly, but ever since I have, this is my favorite now. And it will conclude my favorite art supplies video. I will try to have the links in the description. When I can, I will include my affiliate links, which that would just mean that if you purchase them in that way, you will be supporting my channel with no extra expense to you guys. I would just be incredibly thankful either way if you do. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you to my patrons for supporting me, and I will be seeing you guys again soon.